But this we felt like would be a really useful educational process for everybody in the G League and the WNBA. Most of you know me, I know you. I understand where you are, what you're doing from a ticket sales standpoint. And to give you a little background on how this came about, Rob Cressy and I got to know each other probably 3 or 4 years ago. Rob is a social and digital media expert, and we had connected. We actually both went to the same school, Miami of Ohio, probably 10 years apart. He's a lot younger and better looking than I am. And we connected and started talking about our launch of the Makin' Bacon and what the social media and the digital advertising strategy was going to look like. And I knew we weren't going to have a large budget. So one of the things we did, actually, time out, Rob, before I get started, we need to make sure we record this for a couple of, so there's some people from the league office, and I don't know, are we recording?
Yep, we're good.
Awesome. So when Rob and I started talking, we said, we need to come up with a strategy for social digital engagement for our team without doing it with a large budget. And Rob came to the table, and Tyler Verton, who was our director of marketing at the time, who just sent me a text message saying he's having a computer issue and he'll join us in a minute. Tyler was a young guy, 21 years old, hadn't even, quite frankly, graduated from college. So Rob took Tyler under his wing and really helped drive the Makin' Bacon social and digital strategy for engagement. And then with that, as we started to build our followers and the people interested in our team, Tyler dug in and really took off with Facebook digital advertising. And that came about in a way that in our first couple of years, we were doing 20, 25 to 1 in return on our dollars spent on our Facebook advertising as for ticket sales. And as we went through this, we had so many people asking us, how did you do what you did? The combination of the social digital following and the engagement we had going, plus what we were doing on Facebook, led us to create a digital ticket sales class. So instead of people having to hire an outside consultant, it was better, we felt, to create this class where this way you as team operators who have the same kind of small budgets we had in Macon and have people who aren't experts, instead of having to go outside and hire outside agencies and outside digital consultancies to really help you drive ticket sales, you can learn quite a bit from this. So in talking with Jeff and talking with John at the league office, we said, why don't we put together a webinar? This is not Rob and I and Tyler just talking at you. It's an engaging, you get to ask questions, talk through some of the strategies you've been doing. Well, we'll help you see and understand what we did to launch the Makin' Bacon social and digital strategy, how we utilize that from a Facebook advertising, and then also the step-by-step within the class, how we help your marketing people or whomever on your staff is responsible for those things become experts the same way Rob and Tyler are on our side.
Awesome. So Steve, one thing that I'll do to sort of add to this on my end, my name is Rob Cressy. I'm the founder of Bacon Sports. And what I specialize in is content creation and fan engagement. And as Steve mentioned, we started working together when the Makin' Bacon were first created. But how in the world did I even get to that in the first place? And for me, I started my company 7 years ago because my dream was always to work in sports and be creative. I knew I could do as good or better than all the other content that I saw out there. Everything was so homogenous. It was copy paste, insert what's on ESPN or Deadspin. So what I did is I created a sports comedy blog. I've got a background in improv and comedy writing, among other things. And day after day after day for 3 years straight, I was a publisher. I was creating content, podcasts, videos, live streams, social media marketing. I learned how to build a community for my own brand. And over that process, we generated over 1 million unique organic visitors to the website. And we got people actually looking forward to hearing back from us. So our Facebook page was very much like a sports bar of people who loved all things sports. Well, as I continued to evolve my business, I turned the sports blog into what you would consider a content studio that helps companies, teams, leagues, and brands create podcasts, videos, social media marketing, and engage fans. And the genesis of it all is the exact reason for why I do it in the first place. I love sports and I love fan engagement. So the mindset for how I worked with Steve and Tyler at the Makin' Bacon very much came from the mindset of a sports publisher. It said, all right, how are we going to get people to look forward to hearing back from us again? And how are we going to engage them? And so often, a lot of the issues that teams or companies run into is all they do is buy what we're selling, buy what we're selling. And that's the only message you hear. But the key to selling more is actually to be more like your audience and say, all right, what can I do to get you to engage with this piece of content? So you look at the content and say, hey, what is the thing that we're creating right here? Let's make this fun. Let's make this something that I would actually want to create with. So I've been unique in that I've been able to take a sports blog in the mindset for how to engage fans and transfer that over to helping teams, leagues, and companies do the exact same thing. And Tyler, I believe you just joined us as well. Do you want to jump on and give a quick nugget on who you are and your role in this process?
Yeah, so my name is Tyler Burton. For the past 2 years, I was director of marketing for the Making Bacon. Basically, what happened was when I came on board, Steve and Rob kind of helped me get the things moving with the Making Bacon as a new social media brand. So Rob worked with me to get our social media up and running and doing it the right way. Kind of like Rob said, we're not just trying to sell. We're trying to build a brand and have a good brand voice online, as well as selling tickets. And that was what Steve was really interested in, how to kind of combine both of those things. So my role in this was really kind to give you some hands-on examples and kind of what I went through the process with this course and trying to learn how to build a social media page the right way and also how to use Facebook to sell tickets.
Awesome. Thank you, Tyler. So Steve, you had something you want to say? Go for it.
Let me add something here too. For those of you listening, this becomes even more important right now as you're starting to figure out what your next season looks like. And that's twofold. Number one, your owners are going to ask you to do way more with less in terms of less advertising dollars, less resources. Many of that will end up being, you're going to have to do way more with less staff. So the idea and the strategies behind what we put in place in Macon really targeted selling ticket packages, telling single game tickets without you needing salespeople to be aggressively making those outbound phone calls. You can shift the sales people resources you have into other areas, B2B ticket sales, group sales, that type of thing. And you can let Joe fan sales really come through digital and through some of the advertising tools that Tyler was able to put in place.
And I love that, Steve, because oh, getting a little feedback right there. I love that because that is a very key thing, because my DNA as an entrepreneur is doing more with less. And in social media, we always hear so many excuses for why we cannot do things. We don't have the knowledge. We don't have the resources. We don't have the budget. But guess what? All of those are just excuses. If you want to succeed right now, you need to find a way. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to teach you 5 things: how to sell tickets and engage fans right now. So we're going to learn on how to sell tickets right now, how to create highly engaging social content, how to do more with less, what opportunities are currently in front of you, and the mindset for forward-thinking teams. So Steve and Tyler, Steve, we'll actually start with you. Let's talk about what Macon is currently doing, because we're not just going to be preaching theory. We're actually going to be preaching what we actually do to make things happen. And I think the Making Bacon is such a good example, because when we started, it came from zero. When we talk about no resources, there was no team name, there was no games, there was nothing. You cannot have less of a zero than they started with. And that is great because we've been able to build up from there. But Steve, I'm curious from your perspective, why did you want to invest in this in the first place and even work with me and get Tyler leveled up from a strategy standpoint?
Well, twofold. One, I'm the owner of the team. And those of you who know me, I'm kind of a cheap son of a bitch. So I wasn't going to spend a crazy amount of money on mass media advertising. First of all, I don't believe in it. I don't believe billboards, radio, TV actually really drives ticket sales. And the dollars that would be necessary to do that weren't really available. So as we dug into this, social media is free. Digital advertising is relatively inexpensive. And in the case of the digital advertising, it is all very trackable. So I knew for every dollar I'd give Tyler to spend on advertising to generate ticket sales, I knew exactly how many dollars were coming back. And that's a very powerful thing for you to be able to communicate to your owners, that the resources you give, we can return those back to you X number of times over. So for us to get started, that was critical. And Rob's right. We didn't have a name. We didn't have a staff. We had a stadium that was years old. We didn't have anything. So what we had to do is create a brand that wasn't related to players winning, talent, any of that stuff. It was a brand essentially created and related to, are we fun and interesting and engaging? And even right now, 3 years later, we still target that. We won the championship last year, but if you ever follow and look at any of our social media posts, 98% of it has nothing to do with the games, has nothing to do with the players, because nobody cares about our players. It's about how much fun we are as a team, how much fun our games are, and even now in the off season, what else are we doing on a regular daily basis to engage people to keep them interested in us?
All right, Tyler, now let's move this over to your side of things on what the experience was like for you in leveling up. Because I remember the very first day, we actually didn't even have a team name. And for me, it made me laugh that I knew I was on the right path in life when you said, hey, Rob, we came up with a team name. It was the Making Bacon. And me being from Bacon Sports, I was like, this is a match made in heaven for both of us. But there was unique challenges we had to overcome. And I know Steve mentioned the ROI on the digital advertising side of things, but I think it's very important for us to talk about in the early days, what it was like creating content and what the strategy allowed us to do to build a greater foundation for fan engagement.
Yeah, I think at the beginning, what really helped was being able to do that, was learning how to make more out of less per se. Because we, like you said, no games, nothing. How could we sell tickets? How could we sell an experience that's never happened? So we really had to dig deep and come up with things that we maybe didn't think we were going to have to do, but being somewhere where we didn't have anything ever happen before, we had to get creative. And I think that helped long-term to be a creative thinker, because like I said, we barely had anything, no games, no players, nothing. We had to make something out of that. So I think that really helped long-term wise make me be more resourceful with creative content. So at the beginning, it was, once we had a team name, I mean, that really helped, having Bacon. I mean, usually that's a pretty well-liked thing. So being able to take stuff with that and have some fun with it. But even then, still never playing a game. How Steve was basically saying, how are you going to sell these 5-game plans without ever playing a game? So we had to get really creative with using clips from different movies, TV shows, and kind of making some pop culture references out there to try and sell tickets. And it worked. People really took kind of that. So we really learned that at the beginning was really tough, and now that we've had games, it makes it a lot easier. But we really learned how to make a lot out of nothing, and I think that only helped the creative side of things, because if you're giving all this content, you can almost be easy on yourself. Where I had to start with nothing, it really helped, get the gears moving in my head, saying, how can we make something out of this that people will enjoy and want to follow?
All right, Tyler, I want to get extremely specific here so that people can actually learn some stuff. So one of the things that we did together is we created a written social media strategy. And why in the world is it important for us to create a written social media strategy? There's a variety of different reasons, but so often we all think that we know everything about the team that we're working with, and we're just going to execute this, no problem whatsoever. But here becomes the issue. Do you believe that every single employee who is doing your social media marketing is always going to be there? The answer to that 100% is no. Instead, I want you to think about this like a builder would in building a house. Could they build a house without blueprints? Sure, they could. It would be cheaper, but guess what? It's going to take longer and the quality isn't going to be as good. But with Tyler and the Making Bacon, because we were starting at zero, we had to say, all right, what are the things that we are going to talk about with our community to engage them and create content? So one of the things that we did is a thing called content buckets. And I said, all right, Tyler, we are going to create 5 to 10 different things that are important to the Making Bacon brand that we are going to talk about on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And why in the world do we do this? Because one of the areas where social media managers run into problems is, I don't know what to post. The challenge in this is, it's Thursday and you haven't posted anything, and you sit there at the screen and you're like, what do we post right now? Maybe there's not a game today, or you just don't know what to do. We alleviate all of that by saying, hey, let's create a strategy that becomes a blueprint for us to execute easily. So Tyler, I want to hear from you on the content bucket side of things, and sort of what are a few of the content buckets for the Making Bacon, and how does that allow you to create better and easier and more effectively?
Yeah, so we have some specific ones that we found that really worked with us in Macon. So being the Macon Bacon, our mascot being named Kevin, and the joke being with Kevin Bacon, I like to build in some stuff where we can joke out with Kevin Bacon. Part of the post, we have our rivals, the Savannah Bananas. How do we keep them, just taking jabs at them that people like to enjoy? Community-related stuff. You know, we do like to talk about the players sometimes and kind of telling the stories of where they've came from as far as that goes. A lot of baseball history in Macon. Our field was over 90 years old, kind of telling some stories about that. So just kind of mixing things in as far as that. And then I think people love memes. That's a lot of what you see scrolling through social media. How can we get things that make people laugh and make them show that we're more than just a baseball team, like Steve said, showing the fun that we can have. So we try and mix in all those types of things, from the history of the baseball stuff, and more importantly, having some fun with Kevin Bacon, the Savannah Bananas, and kind of getting a good fun brand voice that the Making Bacon has.
And Tyler, so that we make this clear, you're not just doing only Kevin Bacon content or only meme content, that it is the mixture of the content that allows you to create an engaged fan base. Is that correct?
That is correct. You obviously don't want to go to one bucket too much, but finding out a good mix of those content buckets is really going to help build that social media plan.
And now that we've had this plan and you've learned this stuff, let's get into your forward thinking mindset, Tyler. So over the few years that you've been doing this, what would you say to people in terms of what they need to be thinking about looking forward regarding fan engagement and content creation?
Yeah, I think live video and video in general, the more you can mix in that kind of stuff into your plan, the better. Facebook loves live video. It's going to show it to more people, and just video in general, it's good. Their algorithm really likes showing that, and even on Twitter, people engage more with videos, same with Instagram. I think the more you can build into that and having fun videos, making spoof videos of things, pop culture stuff, or anything else you can think of that involves video or going live, I think the way things are going as far as things we see Twitch and all that kind of thing, and how popular it's becoming with kids and millennials. I think the more you can involve that into your social media, I think that's where we're going, and I think that's going to only help your brand become stronger overall with an online presence.
All right, and Justine has a question right here that says, can you share some specific examples of what you created during this pandemic that has been well received and successful? How are you measuring that it is successful? Tyler, I'll throw that at your end.
Gotcha. So I think everyone really struggled during the quarantine when everyone was at home, and you're trying to think, how do we stay relevant during this time? People aren't really thinking about sports. Sports are shut down. How do we get our voice out there? And I mean, it was definitely not an easy task. But, you know, like I said, I go back to having fun with Savannah Bananas. We have a rival with them here within the state in our league, and trying to kind of get involved with them. We also did things with Kevin Bacon too, with referencing, you know, I did one where I put a picture as like how Kevin Bacon saved the world, and it was like the Footloose movie poster, and I said how Kevin the Bacon saved the world, our mascot, and it was him sitting on his bed, be staying at home and being safe, to give you an example. People thought it was funny. And as far as measuring, I think as far as just engagement, I think likes, shares, comments, I think shares is a big one, because it's showing it to people who might not have ever seen your post before, might get them a chance. And then obviously the more likes you get on your page, that's just going to make them more long-term followers. So when you make the ask of, hey, you know, here are our mini plans on sale, they're more likely to see that and go, oh, that's right, we started following them, maybe we should go check out a game. So I don't think there's an exact measurement to go from engagement to buying tickets, but a social side of just saying, getting a lot of likes, shares, and comments, and people more likely following your page or liking your page is a good idea to gauge how well it did.
And I want to drill down a little bit more specific on this, what you just said, Tyler, about the likes, shares, comments, and the engagement and the result side of things. Because what we want to do is put together a holistic approach. Because once again, so many teams, they suffer from only buy what we're selling from a season ticket standpoint or a single game tickets. And that's not why we as fans are there to consume your content. Because think about this. in the feed of the people that you are marketing to or that are your fans, they're not only just seeing your stuff, they're seeing their friends who are on vacation or dog videos or trick shots or political stuff. So really your competition is the attention of everybody. So if all that you're doing is posting the same generic stuff over and over and over again, all of a sudden you're not going to get much engagement. Why? Because the content itself isn't good. Because if I see someone making a trick shot from half court, that's significantly better than the content that you're creating right there. So with Tyler's mindset of let's create this fun and engaging content, certainly right now, what that allows you to do is stand out in a sea of sameness, because you can become this brevity for your fans that say, wait a second, I look forward to hearing back from your team because I know it is fun on Throwback Thursdays or insert whatever the category is going to be. And every time you create these engaging posts, what that does is it buys you credibility for when you do say, oh, by the way, I know you've been getting down with us for a while now. We do have these ticket packages right here. This isn't the only thing that you're saying to them, but now becomes the mixture. So the engagement allows you to sell better because you've invested in the relationship. Tyler, is that how you see it as well?
100%. I think the analogy I like to use is a jab, 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 right hook. That's Gary Vee, a pretty big social media influencer. He has a book titled by that. And basically those jabs are the fun, engaging stuff, getting people to follow your brand, kind of get familiar with them, and the right hooks when you ask. So you want to make sure you throw in plenty of jabs. You don't want to throw out a bunch of right hooks. You want to be able to get the people to follow your page, get them to enjoy your brand. So when you give them that right hook, that ask to buy tickets, a lot easier to sell.
Awesome.
And Rob, let me add something here too, and we'll go to answering James's question he put in the post or in the chat. As the owner of the team, and Tyler can attest to this, I don't keep track or I don't follow every post he makes, because then we're really going to restrict the creativity and the fun. So originally, my original instructions to Tyler, and this goes to presidents on this call or any senior executives, is have confidence in the person who's controlling your social media. Give them guidelines, but don't have to approve everything. I basically said to Tyler, if you feel like it might offend somebody, don't do it, because you're using your best judgment. But I'm going to let you have fun, be engaging, be entertaining, because I think that's important for that brand consistency for what the team does. And James, I might answer your question a little bit related to the serious issues, social justice, civic engagement, and social strategy. We looked at sports, and where Macon is in a strong minority community. We looked at sports as an escape and did not want to use our social media to openly take a stand on some things that might cause conflict for people in the community. We wanted our team to be that escapism, that relaxation, that, hey, this is a fun place to go. So as part of our philosophy on what we were posting and how we were posting, it was really fun, irreverent, have a good time. And quite frankly, yeah, the name's fun and your name's different, but as a team, you can pick and choose whatever creativity and fun stuff you want to have. One of the all-time best ones I saw during the pandemic was, I think it was the University of Kentucky's basketball broadcaster. When they weren't playing games, he'd take his two dogs and do posts about his two dogs. Like he'd do play-by-play of his two dogs eating dinner. Or play-by-play of one stealing a toy from the other one. So think of it that way. It could be anything. And the other thing I want to make a point of, a lot of teams, and I see this in a lot of teams with small staffs, the person in charge of your social media is your broadcaster or your PR person. And they are mainly going to be focused on players and the team and stats. But if you take a step back, look at all the followers you have, the thousands of followers you have, probably 95% of them really don't follow you because they care about which player just got signed or who had the most points in last night's game. They're following you because they find you interesting and fun. So if you have a problem with the content being created that is so team and game focused, you might need to take that control out of the PR person or the broadcaster's hands and put it in the hands of the marketing person whose ultimate sole goal is drive ticket sales.
So Steve, one thing that I want to sort of dig a little bit deeper on is The answer to that question in terms of do you want to talk about the social issues or not, that is a choice that you as the team get to make. So when Tyler and I talked about the 5 to 10 different content buckets, we did not have that in one of our content buckets. But if you decide, you know what, that is important for us, then boom, you can go ahead and create that. So what I'm actually going to do is share my screen right now. Steve, if you can confirm, can you see this right now?
I can see it.
Cool. So what I want to do is show you what some of the inside of the course looks like. And there's a reason for this, because what we did is we broke down the social strategy that Tyler and I created to make this easily digestible for you to create. So what we're talking about right here is content buckets, looking into lesson 5. So what we've gone ahead and done is created a video that dives deeper just into the content bucket side of things. So as you can see here, 5 to 10 categories that are important to your brand and tie back to your social media goals. We also have a workbook that we created here that allows you to actually just write these things down, because as someone who has to do more with less, who also wants to make this simple, I don't want your social media management to have to take all the time in the world, because we all don't have all the time in the world, certainly when we're doing numerous things at once. So we wanted to help make this as simple as possible for you to execute. So Steve, going back to your example of the Kentucky broadcaster who's doing the play-by-play, well, guess what? If he had a social media strategy, one of his little buckets may have been off the wall announcing, something that's fun and interesting and unique. And all you got to do every single day or week, you look and see what your list of content buckets are, and boom, you go ahead and create that. To show you some insight into some other things that are really important here, brand voice. So this one to me is one of my favorites, and is also so important and often overlooked. So what is brand voice? It is the human element to what you do. It is what your social media sounds like. So when you hear from the Making Bacon, they sound like X. So what we recommend you do is, hey, let's write out the characteristics of what your brand voice sounds like. Well, why in the world is this important? Because a lot of you are going to be on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, some on YouTube, some on Snapchat, some on TikTok, some with podcasting. You want to have consistency across all the channels that you have. By writing down what you sound like, you're now going to be able to say, all right, we sound like this. Now let's go to this content bucket for today. Oh, now let's create this. Because what we want to do is create a digital menu for you or your social media manager every single day, so that they don't have to think, because thinking takes time. What we want you to do is to be able to execute, and or we want you to be able to have fun and be creative. And sometimes when you add structure to your world, that actually gives you more freedom, because you don't sit there and say, what in the world are we going to create today? Instead, you go, oh, today's Thursday. It's Throwback Thursday. Boom. Let's do something that talks about the history of our team, or a throwback to an amazing play, or something like that. So what we really want to do is break this down as easy as possible for you, and have you write down the things that are important to who you are as a team. That way there is absolute clarity. So some of the things you're going to see right here, we've got social media goals, defining who your audience is. A lot of these things you might say, Rob, we already know these. Great, but have you written it down? Why is that important? Because you can always reaffirm to yourself, who are we writing these posts for? Who are we engaging? What do we sound like? Strengths and weaknesses. What are we good at and what are we bad at? Guess what? A lot of us like to avoid what we're not good at. But guess what? Is that the thing that is limiting you from getting to the next level of where you want to go? Content mix. One thing Tyler mentioned was, hey, video works very well right now. Ask yourself, and you can actually put this in the chat if you want, what is the number 1, 2, or 3 ways that you create? Are you doing just text like a tweet? Are you doing just images like Instagram? Or are you mixing in reels, live streaming, video? Why in the world does that matter? Just think about your own consumption. When you're on social media, do you like to watch videos? I know I do. I know most of you do as well. Well, guess what? Think about yourself and the consumption and then create that way, because that is the opportunity that you have. And guess what? Creating videos may be perceived as harder, but you know what that's an opportunity to do? Be better. Because guess who else is going to be complaining, saying, you know what, Rob, we don't have the time, knowledge, or resources to create videos, so we're just not going to do it. So they're just not going to get as good of results as the people who do. So what we really want to do is help you create a mixture so that you say, hey, maybe we have 25% videos and we have 50% pictures and we have 25% text. That mixture allows you to engage your fans and your audience in a more unique way. And then going back to that ROI, how in the world do you know it works? Well, let's go back and see the results of the videos versus pictures versus the text. And guess what you're probably going to realize? These videos seem to be working way better than everything else. You're like, well, maybe we want to create more of these videos because they're working better than everything else. And this is how you use the analytics to allow you to create better. Going down here, you know what else we do? We break it down on a strategy by platform. One size does not fit all. One of the biggest things that drives me nuts is when you see a team or a company take an Instagram post and share it on Twitter, but they don't do it natively. They just hit the share button and there's no image, there's just text. What we want to do is help you optimize every single platform. And then we're going to break that bad boy down to an editorial calendar. We don't need you executing today's content today. We want you executing next month's content today. That way you can work from a position of strength. So I just wanted to show you some of those things that we're doing because we want to break this down as simple as humanly possible. Because I know from my own experience, social is everywhere. It can be overwhelming and we have a ton of things to do. And if we're creating videos and live streams, it can be overwhelming, but it doesn't have to. Imagine if this is fun, where you wake up today and you say, I'm already planning for next Thursday. Now, what's the thing that we can do? And Tyler's going to sit there and be like, oh, I'm going to create a meme around Kevin Bacon. Now, all of a sudden, he's got a smile on his face and he's not stressing because Steve's not sitting there just looking down his shoulder saying, what are we doing today? We are in control, and you can be in control when you can follow the blueprint step by step by step, because that's what's going to deliver the results. The coaches and the players for the organizations you all work for, what do? They have a strategy, they execute the strategy, and then they're awesome at what they do. It is no different for us as social media managers. Does anybody have some thoughts or questions? Tyler or Steve, do you want to chime in on that?
Actually, I want to add a couple things in terms of content. And I am not a technology guy. I am not creative. Tyler did a fantastic job for us. Like, for example, 2 days ago was National Coffee Day. And so you can take that and create whether it's a meme or a post or something fun related to National Coffee Day. Last week was National Daughter Day. So one of the things Tyler always does, he looked for what unique events were taking place and happening. And in terms of time commitment, a lot of you on this call are going to say, geez, that sounds like a lot of time, a lot of energy. I'll let Tyler speak in a second, but Tyler, I believe it was 10 hours a week maybe you were spending on social and digital media. And in reality, as I said earlier, because I'm a cheap SOB, Tyler's video production studio was more or less his computer, and then I'll let him explain what his sound room was. So Tyler, talk about the time commitment and the video production process you went through.
Yeah, so this is dating back to when we didn't have a game played, and Christmas was coming up, and we were going to do a sale with our 5-game plan, and how you get a hat early to put under the tree and get a card sent to you as well. And I was just kind of sitting there and I'm like, well, I want to do a video, but I don't know how to sell something that we've never played a game. Like I was saying, we had nothing. We just had the team name, and that wasn't going to just do it on its own. So I took one of our emails. I went out to my car. I recorded on my phone, I read through the email, and I started clipping video clips together that kind of made sense with what I was reading, and slapped that together in less than an hour and put it on Facebook, and ended up selling a few hundred 5-game plans for Christmas. And it was something as simple as that because people thought it was funny, because it was kind of just taking some pop culture references and tying into what I was saying, and at the end saying, hey, here's what you get with your tickets, and be great for a Christmas gift. So it doesn't have to be anything crazy over the top, and that just gives you a prime example there. And like I said, it helped me learn a lot of being creative just because I had nothing to work with. And then once we got the fans on video, the skits on field, and everything, that all the fun entertainment that was happening in the atmosphere, it made it that much easier to kind of put it all together there then. But yeah, I literally would just go in my car and record my voice on my phone. So
yeah, it was not high tech. That was our sound studio. You do not need your parent club to produce these super slick videos. Have some fun, do it on your own. Rob taught himself Photoshop and Illustrator and the video production stuff. Tyler, touch on time commitment on a weekly basis. You had director of marketing, director of PR, director of entertainment. How much time did you spend on the marketing and the social and digital aspect?
Yeah, probably between the 10 and 15 hour range per week. It was more of, at the beginning, kind of getting things lined up and figuring out at the beginning of the year, hey, here's the calendar, and start building things out and kind of getting an idea of what I want to start lining up and having posted throughout the weeks. But then also, as things came up, kind of finding things that also gave me, like, Rob said, gives me time to be creative on the spot, because, social media is very bang, 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 instantaneous. Things start going to become popular and kind of be able to get our 2 cents in. So yeah, 10 to 15 hours a week. I would sit there, kind of plan out the week, make sure everything was ready to go, and then start maybe getting ready for the following week. But yeah, no more than 10 to 15 hours with the content kind of in hand. And like Rob said, if you have this calendar laid out, what needs to be done for the following week, and then that gives you the flexibility to be on your toes for if something comes up that you can kind of have some fun with. You're able to jump right on that.
Cool. So as we wrap a bow on this part of it, here's the opportunity that is currently in front of you. And there are 3 things. Number 1, get fans excited to hear from you. No matter what you do, you can build excitement every single day so that your fans say, man, I'm so excited to look forward to hearing from you again. And number 2, to build your social community. Think of it like a relationship. Your community is the gift that will keep on giving, because a lot of companies will think of their audience as a transaction. Boom. You can buy anything from anywhere at any time. So if you're only a transaction-based company right now, you are screwed. And we certainly learned that through this pandemic. The companies that did not invest in digital, in building a community, they had nothing to look back on. But if you have a community that you're constantly engaging, that's your opportunity. Relationship that gets word of mouth, shareability. And people start to think of your team like a friend. They say, man, thank you so much for those posts. I look forward to it. And number 3, and this is what we're going to be talking about next, you have an opportunity to sell tickets. When fans are excited to hear from you and you build a community, guess what? They want to go to a Make and Bacon game so they can experience what they're experiencing online. So, Steve, let's go to you on this, on the selling the tickets side of things. What one thing did you do with going to a class that changed the game for the Make and Bacon?
I'll touch on it in a second, but Ryan Grant had a question about sponsor related materials in the social media buckets. Here's the way you've got to keep in mind, your fans are interested in unique content from you, the team. If you are just sending sponsor advertising to your fan base, your social media buckets, they're going to lose interest very quickly. So if your sponsorship people are saying, you got to put our sponsors in social media, it's got to be something that's connected to the team. So don't put yourself in a position where you're just sending out advertisements because the sponsor wants you to. And whether it's a sponsor promotion tied to your team or a community event or something like that, those are the sponsor elements that I would definitely engage in using your social tools.
Steve, I'll add one thing to that real quick. So Ryan, can you include it? Yes, that can be one of your content buckets, but as Steve said, make the creative better. If you just say, we're sponsored by Key Bank, that's not going to do anything for me, because if you see a Key Bank thing in your post, you're going to be like, that is lame. I'm going to go watch that trick shot instead. But if you work with your sponsorship team and say, cool, we will post something, but we need better creative, because always think about yourself. If you see a piece of content that is trash, guess what the results are going to be? Trash. That is one of the things you're going to build, is a content filter in your head, because you're going to see it over and over and over again. You're going to know what works. So you can add more value to the sponsorship if you say, cool, we're down for posting, but you need to give us something that is worthy to post on our social media account, because otherwise you're not going to get fan engagement.
Yeah, and give you some specific examples of what we did in Macon. In our first year, we would take, we had the mascot go to a certain sponsor. So we had like a law firm as our scoreboard sponsor, and we did a video where Kevin was just walking down the street of Macon, and there was a banana peel, and he slipped on it, and he got hurt. So he went to the law firm and said, well, we're suing the bananas because I slipped on it and got hurt. So, things like that to get your mascot involved, kind of make it funny, because obviously, a 6 foot, 7 foot tall piece of bacon walk into a business and kind of interact with them is kind of unique and funny. So just things like that would kind of give you some ideas of how to just make it more than just, hey, you get, 15% off if you mention that you heard it from us type thing. Have some fun with it and how you can tie it in.
So Steve, let's get back to the question about selling the tickets by taking the Rick Mulready course.
Absolutely. So early on, we started this. Tyler and I weren't as sophisticated, and all we ever did was, hey, boost a post, boost a post, boost a post. So it was kind of cool. Hey, I spent $5 and look how many likes I got, or look how many engagements we got. But we weren't really actually selling anything. So I got it. Somebody had sent me information on a Facebook advertising coach class by Rick Mulready. And at the time I was living in Vegas, the class was in San Diego. I went down to the class. There were 40 small business owners. And Rick is a Facebook advertising expert. He stood up in front of the class and said, raise your hand if the way you advertise on Facebook is by boosting your post. Every single hand went up, and his response was, that's the dumbest thing you can do. Let me show you how to improve your ROI and how you can make that better. So you can imagine, as a guy writing the checks, he immediately had my attention, basically saying everything we'd been doing was a waste of money and not very effective. And I was at the front of the class and taking notes. I was a guy with a hand raise, to the point where Rick said, okay, pal, there's 39 other people in this class. You can't ask every single question. Let's let everybody else participate. So I ended up completing that class in person, came back, told Tyler, Rick also has an online class that you need to take, because this is how we're going to advertise and spend our marketing dollars going forward. Tyler dove into it. I made him take it during Christmas break. It was 91 modules. And I said, you got to finish this between Christmas and New Year's, because come January 2nd, that we're going to go. And he did it. So Tyler, you can touch on the impact it had and what you learned from it.
Yeah, it was a lot of information in a short period of time, but it was crucial to know that we were just getting a drop in the bucket with just boosting posts. And there was so many more elements that you could take advantage of with Facebook, with different audiences, different types of ads. And that's just to give you an example of things, retargeting people who visited specific web pages and things like that we were kind of just missing out on. We were just promoting it to people within the Macon area who maybe had an interest in baseball or interest in beer or something like that. So the course was very in-depth, and it gave me a lot of ideas of how we can use things and how to immediately put it into tack at it and Macon, and how to start retargeting people, finding people who might be interested. And these are all things that you learn in the course. But the main thing I took away from it was, after I took it, I said, Steve, it was great and all, but there's two things. One, I think it's more information overload. And two, I had a lot of questions when I was going through the course where, how can I relate this to selling tickets? He was giving examples about commerce and selling products online across the country. I'm like, I really like it'd be really nice to make some examples of, sports teams and selling tickets, and how can we get around to that? And that's kind of where the concept of this class came from, of taking those ideas and making it specifically sports related and sports driven, because that's a lot of what my questions were during it, is like, wow, this is kind of, I can't really wrap my mind around it as maybe as well as I could if there's specifically to selling tickets for a sports team. So tons of information with lookalike audiences, like I said, retargeting people who visit your website, finding people in your area that more specific interest to your team. It's just it's a huge asset. And if you're just boosting posts, like Rick Mulready said to Steve, you're wasting your time, because there's so much more potential with Facebook advertising.
Cool. So what I will do is I will show you what we've created on this side. And Steve, you mentioned that it was a 91 module course that Rick gave. And you know what? That makes me want to throw up, because do any of us have the time to watch 91 videos? Apparently Tyler did, but I know on my end, I am not interested in watching 91 videos because sometimes more is not better. And what we wanted to do was trim the fat off of what Tyler learned to make this digestible. And I think the key thing that Tyler said was, I want to be able to relate this to our team selling tickets. So we assume the people who learn from us, zero in all aspects. We want to take you step by step. So what do? Boom, we start by teaching you the paid social philosophy. How do you need to be thinking? And then nice and simple action items. Let's set up an audience pixel. Let's create different audiences. So I'll roll down here to the creating the different audiences. What we actually do is we will visually show you how we are doing this. So let me see if I can pop this open here and you can actually see what we do. So we actually go into Tyler's ad account right here and we'll create the audiences for you by looking at what he's doing. So you can watch it step by step that says, all right, to create an audience, click this button. Now put in this thing. All right, go to the Macon, Georgia geography. Boom. So that you don't have to question, well, what do I do next? Because all you've got to do is sequentially follow one video. And the way that I actually learned how to create courses in the first place was by taking a course on how to create courses. And one of the things that they hammered home was, we want to keep you on easy street. Make this as easy as possible. I do not recommend that you try and do everything on the fan engagement social and the paid social side in a weekend. Do not recommend that. This is something that is comprehensive and foundational, that when you start to when you end, your marketing department will be completely transformed forever. But if you only watched one video a day, it might take you, I don't know, less than 2 months to do it. We've got 18 paid and what do we got here? 10 social. We've got 30 total videos right there. So in theory, if you did this once a day or every other day, nice and simple, you can all just go and create a Facebook pixel. So Tyler then breaks it down. Email list based on video views. Why is that important? Because the content that Tyler's been creating at the Macon Bacon, guess what? One of those might actually go very well. And he says, why don't we use this in our marketing and put some paid dollars behind this? So now you can retarget the people who watch your best content to say, hey, I know you like what we're doing. How about this? Rinse and repeat. And we want to do this in a way that's easily digestible and simple for you. So we just go step by step so that this isn't hard. And Tyler, how much experience did you have in this as a marketing manager or director on the fan engagement side and the paid social side before the Macon Bacon existed?
Zero. I had nothing other than my own Facebook page. That was it. Had no experience going into it.
Why is that important? Because I don't want this to come off as intimidating or hard or overwhelming. I want it to be the inverse. I want you to see what we have created as simple, time-saving, and allowing you to execute better. And that's going to allow you to be more in flow. I'm a creative. I love being able to sit there and create, and time goes by and you're like, wow, where did those 3 hours go? That's what I wish for you. I wish for you that you get to where the Macon Bacon are and you can get a 20-to-1 return on your ad spend. Tyler and Steve, can you give a quick nugget on that? Because I think it's a very important thing. So often we hear about results that teams get, but you are living proof that you can get a 20-to-1 return on ad spend.
Yeah, one of the things that you'll notice, and there's, if you caught it on the modules, there's tracking reports. So we set up for you and walk you through exactly how to track every dollar you spend, where the information comes from to tell you how many tickets you've sold. So when your owners or your bosses come back and say, all right, you've got this person on your staff spending 10 or 15 hours a week on social and digital media and advertising. is it working? You are proactively sending this information to them saying, for every dollar you're giving me, I'm giving you $10, $15, $20 back. Even this year during the pandemic, we slowed our marketing for about a month and a half in Macon. It started to become apparent we were going to be able to play. And when we ramped it back up, even though there was a lot of question, a lot of hesitancy, we still did a 12-to-1 return for every dollar we spent. And I told Tyler, I will keep giving you dollars. If you keep giving me $10 or $12 back, that's an easy business decision. I'm not a really smart guy, but I can even figure that part out.
And Tyler, anything you want to add?
No, I mean, it's clearly a proven thing. That's how the world's going. It's going digital. Get it right in front of them on their phones and their computers. Just finding those right people and retargeting them. It's super simple once you dive in and figure out how it all works and get things started. And it's a no-brainer. It's an easy way to spend less money and keep it in-house and sell tickets. I mean, proven that it works here for the past 3 years.
So wrapping a bow on all of this together, as you can see, what we've done is created a holistic approach and strategy to get you the results, to build an engaged community, and be able to sell tickets no matter the time by having the right machine behind you. Instead of just trying to figure it out as you go, we say, listen, follow these steps one by one. We know it works. All you need to do is execute. And oh, by the way, you know what else is great? You have us in your corner. I know that so often as a social media manager, we can feel like we're on an island. We have so much that we have to do. We're oftentimes underappreciated. We hear when things don't go well, but guess what? We want to help support you and build you up and become a positive asset for you to make your life better, to make your team better, because here's what I know. I love sports. I love everything about sports. And there's so much goodness in your team, in your league, and an organization that you can share with the world. And we want to help allow that flower to blossom so that you can bring new fans in, and that your boss or team owner goes, holy smokes, you are doing amazing. Thank you very much. And Steve, I'm going to leave this for you to sort of end this before we do the Q&A.
Well, real quick, I wanted to check. I don't see his name listed, but is Brian Stein from Fort Wayne on the call?
He is not.
He is not. If you have questions, Brian actually signed up and is in the middle of taking the class. And Rich McWalters from the Long Island Nets has also been taking the class to learn, go through it and learn it. So they're already deep into it. And one of the things I talked to John Bishop and Jeff Brown about was, hey, if there's a multitude of teams interested in this, like we did back in April and May with Group Sales Superstar, we can create some sort of league structured deal so everybody can receive access to this at a much cheaper rate as opposed to just one-off teams participating. So the two things I would tell you about this is, number one, I know and understand, having helped you guys for the last year, less is more, and less is even more important now that the pandemic has hit and your ticket sales are questionable. You may not know exactly how many people you're going to be able to play in front of. The G League doesn't know exactly when you're going to start. It might be December, it might be January, it might be February. But the resources you need to get the casual fan going to the games is this. It's digital and social engagement and digital and social advertising. And for the WNBA teams who likely will be playing next, hopefully May, in front of fans, same deal. You can do this with a lot less people. And part of the strategy and the structure behind the idea of this call was introduce you guys to this program and let everybody raise their hand back to John and back to Jeff and say, yes, we're interested in, and then I'll circle back with them and figure out what that looks like and what we need to do to make sense.
And now I would say, let's open this up to Q&A. And here's how I think about Q&A. You have the opportunity to ask any question that is on your mind about anything from social media, content creation, fan engagement, paid social advertising. I'm an expert at this. I live this. When I'm done with this, I'm going to go create some more podcasts and more videos. So if there's something you say, Rob, what do you think about this? Or Steve and Tyler, what do you think about this? This is a great opportunity for you to get some free value and have me answer a question for you that can help you immediately right there, because that's what we want to do. We are here to help. So I do want to say thank you to everyone for attending, but this is the opportunity to drop something, whether you want to do it in the chat or we can have you jump on and ask a question on video if you're interested in doing that. So the forum is now open.
If nobody asks a question, I'm going to call people's names out.
All right. Here's a question from James. What is your recommendation on growing YouTube channel? I find that is where engagement is the lowest for our team. So YouTube, one, I highly recommend investing in building out your YouTube channel. Why? Because guess what we all have on our hands right now? A phone. And guess what's only going to continue to increase? Video. And guess what most teams and leagues are probably not doing? As much video as they should. So that would be my first recommendation, is do video. Number two, it is hard as crap to grow a YouTube channel. Why? Because there's an element of consistency that you need, and you need longevity. So I don't want you to think that you're going to grow a YouTube channel over the course of a month with one video a month. This needs to be part of your strategy, no different than anything else. Because imagine you have to get people to see your videos. Well, where are you going to get them to see your videos? I want you to think of YouTube like a hub and spoke. How do you get more people to see your YouTube videos? You take this video and you say, boom, let's shoot this over to Twitter. And maybe we take the same video and boom, let's upload that natively to Facebook. What you need to do is drive people to there. I would also recommend doing live on YouTube. Why live? Because all of the platforms love live. Tyler, I'm curious to hear from you. What has been your experience on the video side of things and how you use video?
Yeah, so video, as far as YouTube, that is something I think that the bacon that we'll continue looking at something to grow. It is very tough, like you mentioned, to get people to organically go there. But video, we're always cross-promoting it across Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, trying to mix those in throughout all of those things and try, like you said, natively share it from YouTube. So, but like I said, video, we're trying to always come up with things when we have our players to have fun with them, or in the off season, what we can be doing with our mascot. But we've said it over and over again, live video, and video is just the way of the future. It's what Facebook, Instagram, and everything likes. So the more you can use that, the easier it is. And like we've been saying, it's not rocket science to learn how to do all of it. It's, it's a few YouTube videos, a way of learning how to use a Premiere Pro or an iMovie or a Final Cut Pro.
And here would be my next suggestion is, what's very important in YouTube on the organic side is that you do everything correctly. Do you have an engaging headline for your video? Is your caption and description robust? Do you have below that the organic stuff that talks about where people can find you? Are you tagging things correctly? Are you putting in custom thumbnails? Because any one of those things could be a reason why people are not viewing your videos. Because once again, go and Google search something that you're going to create. Look in YouTube. Look at the thumbnails that are there. If you just rely on the automatically generated ones, it's not going to be successful, because YouTube just takes random snippets and half the time it's blurry. So what I would do is create a YouTube template for your thumbnails. Boom, same thing every time. Change the text, throw a new image there. Nice. Now we've got a nice thumbnail. Then what you can do is, if you want to get more organic reach for a video, go in the YouTube search bar and search for what your video is about and see what the first few words are that pop up. Because what that's going to do is it's going to tell you what people are searching for. So how do I, and then see what those rest of those words are. All of a sudden, if it's a little bit closer to what you're creating, boom, let's make a video about this. So sometimes you can actually create a video by knowing what to search first, instead of creating the video and figuring out what the headline is next. I hope that answers your question, James. Justine with a question. For the buckets you decided on that you're going to focus on, do you ever change them, and how often would you? 100% yes, you can. How often is, call it fluid. So what we're doing is creating a baseline strategy. This is what works right now. But I think the last 6 months are a great example. there may be something that was in your content bucket over the last 6 months during the pandemic that is not as applicable as it would have been. Great example of this, live game day. For a lot of teams and leagues, there were no games. If that's one of your content buckets, holy smokes, we can't do that. Boop. Let's take that out and let's replace it with something else. So, Justine, I want you to think about this as it's fluid. It can always change. And sometimes you just may have some inspiration and say, you know what, maybe we should have this in there, or there's new initiatives, but it is fluid. We want to use this as a guideline, not as absolute. And Juan Manuel, we appreciate the love right there. James, perfect. And Justine, perfect. Anybody else have any questions while we're here?
I think a good thing to go with the content buckets as well as, and just in general in social media, and this will come on the content side and the selling tickets is testing. We talk about that in the course too, is you got to find out that things work or don't work by just doing it. You may try something and says, well, that didn't get much engagement. Maybe we'll try and change some things and see, try some variables, whether the caption in the video or the caption in the post, things like that, and just try and change it and find out if it doesn't work. Well, it doesn't work. But you never know until you try. And we like the same with the Kevin Bacon stuff. I didn't know how well that would work until we started kind of teasing those two things together. The mascot, people thought it was hilarious. So it's things that you have to be able to willing to try and find out, like, well, they didn't get that many likes or retweets or shares or whatever. But you need to be able to test, and that'll kind of give you a good idea if that type of thing works. Whether your fan base likes that, then that can become one of your content buckets.
Perfect. We've got a question from Ryan. How many people do you have dedicated on marketing and social media and creative production? I'll let you in on a little secret. When I started for the first couple years, you know how many people were on my team? One. This guy. This person taught himself, as Steve mentioned, Photoshop, audio and video editing, social media marketing, throwing events, apparel, webinars, hosting, SEO, WordPress, everything. So you do not need more than a team of one, but what you do need is a 5-tool creator, because what I did do very well is I taught myself how to create everything. Because someone once said to me, Rob, if you ever hope to get paid to do what you love, you better be doing it already. And I was like, I'm currently creating 0 podcasts and reading 0 books. Think I want to get on that? Yes. So the next thing would be, you can get someone specific for each thing. So I would recommend a graphic designer if you can. If your marketing manager doesn't know Photoshop, boom, get someone who can do graphics. It's so applicable. And then number 2, you would want some sort of editor who can chop up video or audio, but that is super, super simple. And Tyler, I'll ask you that question. How many people do you have dedicated to marketing production?
Off season, you're looking at them. It's just me, all the Photoshop video stuff, that's me. In season, I'd have 2 video interns and a marketing intern who would do photo stuff, and the video guys would capture all the video and edit it for like a game recap and anything else fun we want to do during the season with the players or anything like that. So during the season, just because my world gets hectic, because I also do in-game entertainment as well, I kind of bring on some interns, but who did a fantastic job, just who have a passion for doing that and did a great job every year that I have them on. But in the off season, it's just me. I did Photoshop in high school, and then I kind of got back into it here and kind of retaught myself on YouTube. I never used Premiere Pro until I got to the Bacon and kind of had to teach myself how to use that too. So YouTube is a great resource to kind of learn things and then break it down real simple, kind of like we do in this course. So it's just me. But if you definitely have a lot more going on, you can definitely graphics helps. The more you know personally, you can learn, the better asset you'll become, and just being able to, like you said, less is more. So being able to do that on your own, it is possible.
Cool. Kyle with a question. Given COVID changed how we plan right now, how far out are you currently creating content plan or strategy? So sort of a 2-part answer. I'll answer part 1. Kyle, there are going to be some things that are part of your content strategy and content buckets that you are able to plan ahead. It won't be everything, but there are some things. Like, for example, you may not be able to plan ahead for game day because it's not game day. But what you do know is you may know all right, we're going to be doing something for game day on this day. You may have sponsor campaigns coming down the road that you say, all right, we know next Tuesday we have to do something for Key Bank. Cool. You can start planning that content ahead. Tyler, for you with the Kevin Bacon stuff, if it's Kevin Bacon's birthday, you can plan that ahead. If it's National Taco Day, you can plan that ahead. But otherwise, Tyler, I'm curious to hear from you. How far in advance are you planning or creating?
I think that like you basically nailed it right there. I think you can still have a lot of these things put in place. Obviously there could be, it could be tentative, but I think that a lot of this content that you have, I think you should be able to have the groundwork for. Obviously, you're not quite sure about what your season's going to be like, and as things get closer, you're not sure if things are going to change. But I still think that a lot of the framework with the engaging, the fun stuff, I don't think that really should be affected by any of this. I think more of maybe your ticketing stuff, maybe when you're going to announce single game or whatever it may be, or as far as when your season starts or things like that. I think that stuff obviously you want to have an asterisk by it just because you're not sure. But I think overall, I don't think it should change too much as far as the engaging stuff about your team and the brand.
Cool. Any other questions before we bounce? Steve, is there any final thoughts that you wanted to give if we don't have any more questions?
No, I think this is great. Hopefully, appreciate everybody sticking with us. We went even a little bit longer than originally planned because of the questions. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to shoot me an email. If I can't answer it, I'll connect you with Rob or with Tyler. And then also I'll circle back with John and Jeff at the league office and come up with some follow-up communications to help you guys decide if you want to be involved, how you want to be involved. And I definitely encourage you to reach out to Brian Stein in Fort Wayne and get an unvarnished opinion about the program and see what he thinks.
Otherwise, thank you all for attending. I appreciate it very much. If there's anything that I can do to be a positive asset to you, certainly let me know. Tyler, did you want to give any final thoughts?
No, I think this is a great opportunity. I've said this before. A lot of teams, they'll kind of go to a third party for this, and they're paying to run their ads, and they're paying the people to run the ads. I think this is a great chance to learn it yourself, do it in-house, and save some money, and being able to do it for the team. So I think that this is a tremendous opportunity that we've seen success here in Macon. So I think that it's something you really want to consider.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Sending tons of good vibes your way. Hope that you have an amazing day. That's the end of this. Make sure to hit up Steve if you have any thoughts or questions, and we look forward to speaking to you again.